The Super Speedway Podcast is a Dream Bigger media production. For news, photos, show notes, and information about advertising on the podcast, visit www.thesuperspeedway.com.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Super Speedway.
Welcome to episode 153 of the Super Speedway Podcast, recorded Wednesday, May 13th, 2020. I'm your host, Eric Young, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, James Cush. James, take two. It's a good thing that we didn't have like a really long intro or something tonight, that we didn't have to listen to it a second time, huh?
Holy cow! Yeah, I'm still giggling over the first go around of trying to record tonight's podcast.
So a little inside info for you guys that are not, that are listening. So last week we had Todd on, NASCAR official, friend of the show, Todd. I always got to point out he's a NASCAR official because we had a NASCAR official on our show, James.
Officially official.
Officially official. So we had him on last week, and my soundboard is limited in that if I have two Skype calls going, I can't play music off the iPad, which is what does the intro and the outro. So I do those post where normally I do them live, and 1 week of not having it, and I hit the wrong button at the beginning. So when you guys hear the intro or heard the intro, there was a little chuckle of James over top of the
yeah, I was so
intro.
giggling. I'm sorry,
but I left it in, man, because it's great.
Yeah, well, I was trying to stop laughing, but my role always is to let you get the show off the ground. Like Eric is in control 100%.
No, I'm not in control. That's the problem.
Well, I know you try, but I try to give you plenty of room, and I couldn't help it when we crashed on the first try. This time it was so funny.
I'm like the Rick Allen on the last lap. You could just let me do it, and
well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, it wouldn't,
and
Eric,
that would make you Dale Jr.
Slide job. Right? No.
Yeah. Wow, I'm so slow. There it is.
No, I want to make sure the buttons are working.
Caught me off guard on that one.
Yeah, no kidding. You're off your game, man. But it wouldn't be like, listen, things are getting back to normal, and the podcast crashing into a brick wall right off the start is as normal as normal gets.
Right. Usually, lately we've been waiting till the end to do that.
Yeah.
This week we're back in the real world. Back with real racing. We're going to do it right at the beginning.
Yes. Good.
I do apologize if you hear snoring. That is my dog sitting underneath the microphone. I just heard her do a loud snore, so I'm sure it's coming.
And she was snoring. So last week after we closed the show, Todd, if he's listening to this, which I'm sure he will at some point, Eric was trying to tell us a story. Both Todd and I got really quiet, and we said, is your dog snoring underneath your microphone? And sure enough, that's what there was, a dull roar coming from the other end of the phone line. So
I feel for you guys who don't get to hear everything. You guys just listen to what we record, because we had pretty much about a whole nother podcast last week off air with Todd.
Yeah.
It was a good time, very good time. If you guys didn't check out last week's podcast, check it out. Todd Henry Jr., NASCAR official, friend of the show. He's been on before. We chatted with him a bit. There's a bunch of stuff about iRacing and all that stuff beforehand, but just skip to the end if you want to listen to Todd's stuff. There's some pretty good stuff. So with that, we get to talk about iRacing one more time, James. One more time.
One last time.
Well, except that it sounds like they're looking at doing something in the wintertime, which is cool. I'm good with that. Let's just leave it to the winter, leave it during the off season. Hopefully we don't have to do it more during the regular season. NASCAR wrapped up its eNASCAR iRacing Pro Invitational Series. Look at that. I did that, James, and you didn't even put the whole name in the notes.
I know.
I just did it off the top of my head.
I didn't give it the credit that I knew you would, the professional, in the notes.
So we finished it up with North Wilkesboro last weekend, the final Pro Invitational race. Denny Hamlin puts the bookend on it, wins the first and the last race in the Pro Invitational Series. James, I heard a rumor that you actually tuned in for a few laps this week.
I watched the last 14 laps.
Nice.
Yeah.
What'd you think from what you saw?
It was a thing on TV. No, actually, it was pretty entertaining. I watched that last restart, and I saw some bump and runs, and I was kind of pulling for Dale Jr. there. He was running fifth towards the end, and he got bottlenecked in some stuff. And Denny Hamlin, and I was kind of pulling for Timmy Hill too, but it was Denny. who prevailed. No daughter taking the TV remote, turn things off, or none of that. But that was cool. I thought the aesthetics of North Wilkesboro was where I was the most interested in what was going on. Just looking at the structure of the track that they had recreated. It's
let's talk about
really good
that, because I'm not happy with it.
I heard that rumor too.
And as somebody who, I get it. I understand. North Wilkesboro to most people is the North Wilkesboro that they created. It's the 80s North Wilkesboro, maybe prior to that. It's the track that, they're releasing the 87 Monte Carlo and Ford Thunderbird to go with it for iRacing. That's the North Wilkesboro that people remember. For me, I don't think I started paying attention to the tracks, the actual tracks on the circuit, other than Michigan and like Daytona, Talladega. But I didn't pay attention to the rest of the tracks until NASCAR Racing by Papyrus came out, which I think was 94, if I remember correctly.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
And because I could run on the tracks, I was paying a lot more attention to what the tracks were. And so to me, North Wilkesboro is that 94 to 96, the very tail end of North Wilkesboro. That's the track that I remember.
The big pit wall.
Right. The pit,
around the side.
Yeah, it goes all the way around. It starts in turn 3. It actually has a pit wall on pit road between the crews and the cars. So I was a little disappointed with, who cares what I think, because I don't have iRacing anyway, so it's not even like I can race on it.
Your personal view of it. You wanted the 90s version, and
right?
You got that.
And I'm likely in the minority here. I'm sure most people are really happy with the version they got. I want to see. I mean, honestly, I'd have been perfectly happy with them taking North Wilkesboro and saying, what would it look like today, and slapping a safer barrier on it, stuff like that. I think that'd be cool too. But give me two versions of it then. Give me the updated version and the old version. But I don't know. I can't complain about it. North Wilkesboro, we can race on North Wilkesboro again, which is awesome. It looks really good. They did a great job with it. I just would have liked to see the newer version, just because that's what I'm familiar with. But who the hell
documentary that Dirty Mo put out, that they did, was, I tell you what, man, the Ken Burns of doing yard work on TV is what that was. That was just
yeah, like really, that's all it is. We're watching people weed whip.
Yeah, it was a lot of weed whipping.
But it's 20 minutes long, and you watched the whole thing, didn't you?
I did. I watched the whole thing.
Me too.
Yeah. No, it's really good. It is really good. I kid, but it's I like that Dirty Mo did that, and I hope to see some more things from them on the digital side, because those guys do a really good job with pretty much everything they do. And that little mini doc, especially nowadays, documentaries of all sorts of sizes and we're watching this. Well, you're not, but I'm watching the Michael Jordan thing every week. And that's 10 hours of documentary content.
What do you mean I'm not? How do you know I'm not?
You're not watching Michael Jordan.
I'm not watching it, but and I liked Michael Jordan actually, but
but no, this thing has been fantastic. That's another sidebar discussion, but yeah, no, the Dirty Mo stuff was good. Watching them how they did the track, and it makes sense. You have to clean the surface, because they are, when they scan the track, they're taking in all of that data.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
They did a really good job of explaining that, like the grass that comes up to the track, the computer is going to scan that and see that as just the track surface with, points sticking out of it, and that's not good.
You got to think, they scan the track, and that's great, and they did probably the best job they could to flatten the surface. But those programmers, they still got to go in and fix that data. There's going to probably be a bunch of stuff in there that they had to clean. So,
and how buggy do you think it was? Like, I guess they released it to the public, so it had to be pretty close to ready to go. But you're racing a pre-release version that they crammed together to try and get it done so that they could race it for this last race.
Yeah.
They weren't shooting for that timeline. It's just what ended up getting to them.
I don't know how big the team over at iRacing is that is pulling this off, but they did that in a crunch. I think they scanned it in December, and they got it done by beginning of May, right?
Right, and not only that, but they're constantly updating other tracks. They've updated all the tracks for
this iRacing Invitational stuff.
Yeah, and then they've been working on damage models as well. It's like, I'm sure it's not a giant crew, that's for sure.
No, but this was all the work they've done to this point was worth their investment.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Tenfold. I mean.
Yeah, I couldn't. It's a perfect storm for them that they had Wilkesboro going, and just and it just so happened that we had this virus and NASCAR got shut down and we started racing on. I mean, it's just crazy. The whole circumstance, the way it worked out for iRacing, it's perfect for them. They're about the only ones that are happy about it.
Yeah, been a killer for iRacing, and I know the TV partners are happy,
right?
You know, with their content that they were able to put out. And you know, I was listening to something I want to talk to you maybe a little bit, but when we get more towards Darlington, I want to talk to you about the media covering NASCAR as we come back. But I was listening to a podcast on ESPN. They were basically talking about NASCAR coming back, and it was one of the big parts of why NASCAR is coming back, they think, is because of the success of iRacing and the TV ratings that they were pulling.
Yeah.
And they think that getting real cars back on the track, you know, will increase these eyeballs even more. So, you know, they're just looking at what they've got, and it's, you know, iRacing was a big, you know, portion of that. So, you know, kudos to them for what they did.
Yeah, I agree. One thing I want to go back on, you know, you mentioned Dirty Mo. So Dirty Mo and Dale Jr. are the two reasons that there's probably a really strong chance that I'm going to subscribe to NBC's Peacock service, Peacock TV, because they're doing that series on
the Lost Speedways.
Yeah, the Lost Speedways. That man, I mean, the stuff they put together is so good that I want to watch it, and I'm gonna have to pay for it. So I guess I will.
Yeah, you have to get that Peacock subscription.
Yeah.
It's all right.
I did. You know, I talked last week before we jump into the rest of this stuff. I did get the subscription to Dirt Vision to watch the sprint cars at Knoxville. That was a pretty good show. Great race right down to the end.
Yeah, I saw a bunch of the highlights. I tried to get some of it as it was coming through, as much as I could, but I wasn't able to get this. Listen, man. There's some things I can put a subscription on, and some things I can't. I am at the very limit. But I was itching to watch some racing. So I was definitely glued in on the highlights.
I got into it, I thought, an hour late, and I was concerned. I'm like, man, what did I miss? So I turn it on, and they're qualifying. It's like, I'm an hour late, and they're still qualifying. Like, how in the world did that work out? Well, I forgot that they're an hour behind us.
Yeah.
So I literally turned it on like right as it was starting, which was great. So I got to watch qualifying, everything. And like I said, it was a good show. It was a little awkward seeing the social distancing stuff, and you know, they'd set a mic stand up and interview the driver from like 10 feet away and whatever, but everybody had masks.
Not like the UFC, which I saw some of their interviews, and Joe Rogan was out there with his arms around people. He didn't care.
Yeah. Don't get me going on Joe Rogan. I love and hate that guy. Such a mix on him.
I was wondering if, you know, let's say, let's play the what if game that I love so much. Had Kyle Larson won that race, I wonder how that would have spun for them. I was just curious, and if he does end up winning an Outlaws race over the next couple of weeks, how that's going to spin, because that's going to probably hit mainstream news.
Yeah, but how he ran in that show, they're not going to have to worry about it.
Yeah, he thought it was the top 10. He made the feature.
Yeah, he was mid pack and nowhere.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't. Maybe he didn't get much mention because of the whole situation, but he was.
Yeah, I'd be tiptoeing. Yeah, I mean, if I was on the broadcast booth, I'd be tiptoeing around it right now too, because you know it seems like he's back awful fast, even though it's not.
Right.
I don't think he's been back awful fast, but.
Well, and one thing that's I noticed that you don't have in the notes, James, but I guess we can get into it right here, is that for the sprint car show, I forget what the sprint car announcer's name is, but he was broadcasting from Charlotte in a studio.
Yes.
And we're going to have that same thing with NASCAR this weekend when we go to Darlington, that Mike Joy and Jeff Gordon are going to be in the studio in Charlotte as well, which is not surprising. I figured that's what would happen.
Right, and one pit reporter, Regan Smith.
Yep.
Will be on site.
So again, just another one of those things. It's a little bit different that we're dealing with.
It's going to look a lot different, yeah.
And you're going to notice one thing, and we're bouncing all over the place, so I apologize, guys. But one thing you're going to notice at Darlington is you'll hear Mike Joy a lot, where something will happen and you'll hear him yell "crash," and that's because he's watching the screens, but he's also watching the track.
Yeah.
And he's not going to be able to do that now. He's not going to see. You're going to see stuff that's going to happen in the background of the screen that you're going to be like, why are they talking about that? But it's because they're trying to call what they see right in front of them, and they're not used to looking at the screen like that exclusively. So
exactly.
It'll be different.
And I didn't put the links in the show notes, but I sent you and Todd actually
Yes.
in our little group message an article from The Ringer of all places,
Great
which
article.
again goes back to the content. But yeah, shout out to Brian Curtis. He'll never hear this, but Brian Curtis, he reports on media, and he's really good. I listen to his podcast and stuff. He's a really smart guy. But the fact that he was writing about NASCAR caught my eye, and sent it over to you and Todd. But yeah, talking about Mike Joy's process, I found that fascinating. And he weaves it into other sports too that are more mainstream.
Right.
But Mike Joy was definitely the highlight of the article for everyone. So
Jeff Gluck got to sit in with the TV guys and do a story on them. I would just love to just shadow the TV crew one weekend at a race, because I'm so fascinated on how all that stuff works and what goes into that broadcast. It looks really easy. And it's really easy for us to sit here and critique the stuff that they're doing, but it is not easy what they're doing.
Mike Joy made it sound so difficult to me, just his process.
Right.
And maybe it seems simplistic to some, but I mean, if you've gone to a race and you try to watch cars, the fact that he talked about how he's scanning the track, and I'm just like, man, I sometimes have a hard time keeping up on one lap with where cars are at from time to time.
When I'm at the track, I listen to the TV broadcast because I don't know what's going on. Especially at a big track. I mean, you lose, especially once you start getting lappers and stuff like that. It's hard to keep up with what's going on.
Well, and your eyes start to dart. I don't know, and maybe NASCAR fans out there, if you're listening, shoot us a message on Facebook or something. And if you feel this way, but I catch myself darting with my eyes quite a bit. And you're like, okay, there's nothing going on with the leader. What's going on, back? And then your eyes are kind of going back. And then you feel like you're missing something. So you jump back to the front of the field.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way I feel. It's kind of sporadic sometimes.
See, I'm in race director mode now when I watch races after working as a race director at the local track for a few years. I don't concentrate on one thing. I'm constantly scanning the whole thing and looking for stuff. And I'm also one of those people that I've talked about in this podcast. I like the wrecks. And I want to see the wreck. I mean, I'm there to see the wreck in person. And so my eyes are going, like, if I see smoke or something, somebody looks sideways, that's where I'm looking. I'm not watching one car go around. I'm watching everything, trying to see that thing, I'd be the Mike Joy yelling, crash.
Yep.
Except mine would be trouble. I would yell trouble.
Yeah. You're a trouble guy?
Yeah, I'm a trouble guy. I think that came from Bob Jenkins. I think I probably, if I was an announcer, I probably would be very similar to his style, because that's what I grew up with. Bob Jenkins was the announcer that when I played with my Matchbox cars, that's the announcer I mimicked. So, all right, we are way off track. So, wow. James, you mentioned Kyle Larson. You got some info from the DBC podcast. I'm stuck in my home. I don't get to drive in the car anymore, so I don't listen to any podcasts. So, what do the boys at DBC have to say?
Yeah, it's just really, really brief, but they had mentioned that really it's Kyle Larson has not asked NASCAR to be reinstated.
It's interesting.
And they said, well, there's no rides available for him. But I did see on Reddit, people wondering, well, why wouldn't he just ask to be reinstated anyway? And then he could, if a ride opens up, he's ready.
Right.
But yeah, he actually hasn't made that request yet, and that came from the DBC guys. So take it for what it is. Those guys are tapped in as good as anybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fact that he hasn't asked to be reinstated, I wonder. I don't know if we're going to see him back at all. There's that 10% chance that I think he doesn't come back. I still think he does, but
I think you're right. It's about 10%, and that's about it.
He'll be back. He's got his colleagues out there. They're rallying around him a little bit now. I saw Kurt Busch did a piece talking about how Kyle will make his way back, and somebody else. I'm drawing a blank. Oh, it was Hamlin after the iRacing race.
Yeah.
He said that Larson, he thinks that Larson there's a road back for him. So
it's too bad team owners won't be allowed at the track, because I'd like to ask old Tony Stewart what he thinks and see what hints that are dropped there.
Yeah, I think there's already probably, if that call hasn't been made, it's got to be, and
there's probably been some papers exchanged at this point.
Maybe 2021 is, maybe Larson goes and does what he wants for the rest of this year and runs dirt and hangs out, and maybe he's got something in place. We'll be knowing soon. I mean, silly season, is going to be upon us before too long. So
yeah, we found out this week, which you also don't have this in the notes. Dang, James, I thought you did a good job in these notes, but I guess you did a terrible job. No, I'm just kidding. Jimmy Johnson's not coming back next year.
Yeah, he voiced his opinion. Yeah.
Yep, he said he is sticking it out. He's going to retire at the end of this season. I was a little surprised by that because I thought that, a lot of Jimmy's farewell tour was for the fans, and because the fans aren't at the track, I thought maybe he would stick around another year. But, you work on plans well out in advance, so I'm sure he's got stuff in the works for next year. Doesn't want to change everything around, and it's not. This thing still hasn't been any more of a cakewalk with the 2 months off than it was before when he was racing.
Yeah.
So he's probably ready for it to be done.
Yeah,
so.
He was on. I sent this to you and Todd too, but he was on with Marty and McGee, and you could see in his eyes, like he was kind of somewhat discouraged that he's not going to get to see a lot of the fans this year. But also you could see him light up when knowing that it's over and he's just done. And that's fine. I mean, it's his time. It's a bummer that his fan base doesn't get to see him, but I guess it's payback for the way they treated him the first part of his career too.
Right.
When he won all of his championships, but he deserves a better send off than what he's going to get with no fans in the stands. That's for dang sure. But he'll be properly honored in time. It's this is one season. Unfortunately, it's his last, but of one of the heck of a career. And if he goes on and wins the championship, it'll be, that'll be the way to go. So I'm not ruling that out. That guy can do anything.
Right. Man, it'd be so cool to see him do it.
Yeah, it's a long shot, but I mean, I'm not counting that dude. I still won't. I'm right to the bitter end. I will not count him out.
So this made me think of another thing that I want to talk about on the podcast, which is pretty interesting, an interesting take. And I can't find the article that I saw it in, so I'm sorry I can't credit the people who wrote about it. Actually, it might have been Gluck. I think it was Jeff Gluck on The Athletic. So one interesting thing about these races, and it just sprang into my mind because you mentioned, that he's not going to get to see a lot of the fans this year, is that there's a really unique opportunity. Yeah, it is. It's Jeff Gluck. So really unique opportunity at Charlotte. Yes, because Charlotte Motor Speedway has condominiums on the track. And because there are people that live in those condominiums year round, there are going to be approximately, I think Gluck said, approximately 200 spectators in attendance when the Cup cars go to Charlotte Motor Speedway. And so Charlotte has limited the occupancy of each of the suites to 5 people. So you can't bring in all your buddies, but there are people that are renting these suites out that they own. And there'll be people in the suites for the race at Charlotte. And can you imagine being one of those 200 people that gets to be there live? I mean, the cost that they're going for is like $5,000 or something like that. Where was it? $5,097.50 per night on Airbnb. But I'll tell you what, $5,000 to be one of 200 people to be live in attendance at a race. If you got the cash, people pay a heck of a lot more than that to be at the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, if you got a chance to go and see a live event, I think that Christian Espinoza, he's kind of well known on Twitter. He hangs around with Elijah Burke. That crowd. Mm-hmm. I've seen stuff from his suites before.
That's who Gluck talks about in the article.
Yep. So he's one of those guys. Yeah, that's the guy. That's pretty cool. I think he lives there, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
but
I tell you what, that's my dream. I have dreamt of living in one of these suites at one of these tracks.
Doesn't Texas have something similar?
Texas has them too. So when they go to Texas, that will be an opportunity there as well.
Yep.
Turn 2, they've got the big suites over there, or the condos. So
we need to call
Atlanta also, I believe, has condos. So
we have to call our people over at MIS and see if we can get some condos constructed.
Condos built.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. We got time.
Maybe that's what they're building at Chicagoland Speedway, James.
Oh, good one. Well done.
So earlier this week, there was an article that started circulating on Twitter. It was an exclusive, and I'm using air quotes on this, exclusive article from kickingthetires.net. And Jerry, what the heck's his name?
Oh, no.
Seriously?
Jordan?
Jerry Jordan. Jesus, I'm thinking Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones is the Dallas Cowboys guy, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, God. That's pretty rough. I can't remember the guy's name. That tells you something, doesn't it? Here we go, right? So Jerry Jordan tweeted this story out and wrote the story for Kicking the Tires about there were some plans that were circulating on Chicagoland Speedway, and basically a big industrial thing that they were going to go to the planners, the city planners with. And Jerry interpreted it as they're going to sell and tear down Chicagoland Speedway. So a couple things here that first of all, this has been covered beyond that now. Bob Pockrass came out and reported that this does not have anything in the plans of destroying the track. We talked about it on the podcast a while back. This is one of those development things where they're looking to develop some of the empty parking spaces and stuff like that into other opportunities. But so Jerry went crazy with the story. So the first thing I'm going to say is there's just sometimes when you see a story by a source and you check and don't see the same story from some of the well-known media sources, you can kind of start to go, maybe they read something wrong and are jumping the gun a little bit on this. And so when Adam Stern doesn't have it and Bob Pockrass doesn't have it, but Jerry Jordan has it, I'm like, I don't know. Now, I've been to Chicagoland the last 2 years. I will say the first time I went 2 years ago, I was quite surprised by the fact that they have a scoring pylon in the center of the track. And at the top of the scoring pylon is a rotating sponsor billboard that was not working and still had the Nickelodeon Ninja Turtles logo faded out on it from when it was the Ninja Turtles 400.
Oh my God.
There was one of the elevators didn't work. There was a section of stands coming out of the suites that were roped off because they were deemed dangerous. Chicagoland could use some work, and it does seem like they haven't been doing a lot of updating to the facility. There's no pedestrian tunnel on the front stretch, for example. You got to go all the way to turn 1 to use the pedestrian tunnel. Otherwise, you just have to cross the track. So I guess there was some belief a little bit that maybe this could be a thing. I mean, I know NASCAR had a real big push for tracks near major metropolitan areas, and I think that push has gone away now. I think they've discovered that that's not a worthwhile investment. So Chicagoland's days could be numbered because of that. But the thing is, I blame this on Bob Pockrass, James. Would you like to hear why I blame this on Bob Pockrass?
Now you sound like Nick Bromberg.
Because Bob goes out there and does real journalism work and looks at these documents and decides, fishes out things that are stories that other people can't fish out. And it makes these other journalists that cover the sport, that go sit in the media center and don't get up from their desk during the race, that they decide they want to be like Bob Pockrass, and they see something that's a scoop and they get excited and they look silly. So
well said.
That's what I'll say. So big to do about nothing. Obviously James and I were talking before the podcast. There's not a track on the NASCAR Cup circuit that's not on the shopping block, guys. Every one of these tracks, if it's worth more as a parking lot or a shopping mall or a factory than it is a racetrack, it's going to eventually get sold and torn down, and one of those things is going to be put in.
Right, and that's part of the reason why they've partnered with what I can't think of the name of the company.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
The real estate company that they're dealing with. That's when they brought that partnership on earlier this year, Eric. We both kind of squinted our eyes and we're like, something's going on. So yeah, they're going to be evaluating all of this stuff. It's not who knows. I heard Auto Club was something similar going on there.
Well, and Michigan's one. We know that they've talked about Michigan. We haven't seen plans for Michigan, but
yep.
The thing is just some people just need to let the real journalists do their job.
Yes.
So.
Yep. Well done.
Yeah. With that, you got some info on, well, I saw the info, but I didn't read the article. Speed 51 has a story on Myrtle Beach Speedway. What's up there, James?
Yeah, Myrtle Beach. So they released their 2020 schedule, and for those younger NASCAR fans, Myrtle Beach was on the Busch Series circuit for a long time.
Myrtle Beach is an awesome track.
Yeah, great track. Dale Jr. did a lot of his growing up at Myrtle Beach.
Yes.
That's pretty much his bread and butter where he came from. That's his
he
his
raced
home
late
track.
models there a lot,
Yep.
didn't he?
They're
in Hickory, I think, right?
Yep, for years. But Myrtle Beach was his A1 track when he was coming along.
Probably tore up a lot of right rears on that track, according to Dale Jr., because he didn't know how to manage tires.
Yeah.
He's got some good stories about his late model days.
Exactly. Yeah, this is where he cut his teeth. But unfortunately, after the 2020 season, that'll be it for Myrtle Beach Speedway.
What are they doing with it, James? I didn't click on the article. Are they?
Yeah, so they've been approached by developers for purchase, and they're gonna run. Looks like they're gonna run 6 events this year. But yeah, it's there. It looks like it's gonna be redeveloped. Basically, long story short. So this is gonna be the 2020 season is gonna be it, and who knows if fans are even gonna get a chance to go. What a
Right.
bummer! What a bummer! We're kind of celebrating that North Wilkesboro is coming back in a virtual way. I mean, I remember racing Myrtle Beach on the old NASCAR games too. So,
Yep.
yeah, what a bummer that it's going to be. It's it's not a big facility anymore, and if you look at it, it just looks like your basic home track now. It doesn't, there's nothing spectacular about it, but it's historic.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it doesn't even have to be a good racetrack. Any racetrack we lose sucks.
yep.
Dave Moody's got a line. I know, James, you're a giant fan of Dave Moody, but he's got a line that he longs for the day that they tear a shopping mall down to build a racetrack, and I'm with him on that. I would love to
Yeah.
see it. And the situation that shopping malls are in lately, maybe that
Yeah.
day is sooner than we
It
think.
could happen. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we've lost a lot of great racetracks to development. We've had a lot of issues with racetracks because people. A racetrack exists in a place for a long time. People move in around the racetrack and then they start complaining because it's noisy. It's like, come on, people, you moved in, buy a racetrack. What do you expect?
Yeah.
They draw people. The city builds up around it, and then everybody wants the racetrack gone. So it's too bad. Yeah, Myrtle Beach is a cool track. Definitely a track on a list of many that I'd like to go to someday, and looks like it's not going to happen because it will not be happening this year. So
Yeah, I got close to going when I was down there a few years ago. I got close to going, but there was no races on the schedule. So I wanted to actually stop by, but with no racing on the schedule, I didn't make that drive. But
yeah,
Hickory's on my list too. I want to go to Hickory
I'm with you on Hickory.
and Bowman Gray Those are
Bowman
three,
Gray,
yeah.
man, is high on the list for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, popping by a cup track when there's not a race is kind of a cool thing because it's a big deal, and there's stuff to see. And usually you can do a tour or something like that, but a small track like Myrtle Beach when it's not racing probably wouldn't.
Yeah,
be.
you can't really see anything but the back of the grandstands, which is kind of a bummer. But
Yeah, I don't know, James, if you do this, but I spend a lot of time on Google Earth.
yeah, you can check out the track.
I go and I drive in air quotes
See where
around
the- yeah.
around the track, see what it looks like. Darlington, I just was circling Darlington the other day, man.
Yep.
That's fun.
I've driven by Darlington. I had never been to a race there, but I was driving down the road, and all of a sudden, because we were on our honeymoon heading to Myrtle Beach, and we're driving down the highway, and I saw a sign for Darlington. Wait a second. Had no idea the track was even coming up, and all of a sudden there she was, the lady in black, and I was like, oh my god, that's so cool. There it
Yeah.
is.
I've,
I want to go back.
The only track I've seen 2 NASCAR tracks that three that I've gone to that I've seen without cars on the track, and that's Daytona. We just went and visited and did the tour, and of course I've been there for the 500 now since then. And then I saw both Walt Disney World Speedway from the air, flying over it, and I remember flying over and going, "Man, that's cool. There's a Mickey Mouse shaped lake. Oh wait, that's Walt Disney World Speedway."
Yeah.
And because they had the Mickey Mouse Lake in the infield, and then
Yep.
flying into LAX, we flew right over Fontana, Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
California. So,
Didn't you go to Indy too one time?
oh yeah, I went to India. Forgot about that. Did India? Did
Yep.
the tour there? That place is nuts. How skinny it is. 'Cause
Huge, yeah.
Well, it's
It's
huge.
a big facility.
It's
Big
huge, but
facility.
it's not. So like,
Yeah.
Indy's big in like it's sprawling, but it's not tall. Like you see the stands at Indy and they look huge, but Indy's huge stands compared to the stands like at Michigan in Turn 4.
Well,
are
like
nothing.
Daytona now.
Yeah, I
I'd-
mean these.
I'd wonder. You and I both were at pre-Daytona, what it is now.
Right.
The old Daytona.
The old wooden grandstands that you didn't realize were wooden
Yeah.
unless you were there.
Yeah. Once I showed up, I was like, "Holy crap! This is what I paid for."
Right.
Oh, it was still cool. I didn't care. But yeah, no. Now it's a state-of-the-art facility. But
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so NASCAR announced their starting lineup procedures, modified competition caution for their May events. Let's go through here. So When the first race is run this Sunday at Darlington Raceway, this is how we're going to determine the lineup, which I think is pretty cool. I like the fact they didn't just go with owners' points. So position 1 through 12 will be determined by a random draw from charter teams in those positions and team owner points. So if you're in the top 12 in points, you're going to start in the top 12 in the race, but you're not guaranteed to start in the position that you're in. You're going to have to draw for your position. Same thing, 13 through 24, random draw among charter teams for those positions. 25 to 36, also random draw, and then 37 through 40, filled out by open non-chartered teams in order of owner points. I think pretty good system, don't you think, James, on that?
I do too. Yeah. No, I like it. I'm all for the full field invert though.
Yeah.
Personally, I want to see BJ McLeod lead him in turn 1.
So we get close to that for the May 20th race at Darlington. They will start positions 1 through 20 inverted from right. Inverted from the finish of the whatever.
Let's call it Darlington Race 1, Darlington Race 1, and Darlington Race 2.
I'm screwed up because of the dates. I was reading this backwards. So so the second Darlington race, the finish of the first one, top 20 positions will be inverted, and the bottom 20 will start from their finishing positions. So any new entries at the end of the field. Pit stall selection based on charter team owner points, and then open team owner points. The finishing order, or the pit stall picking for the May 20th race, determined by finishing order from Sunday's race this weekend. Coca-Cola 600, we have qualifying for the Coca-Cola 600 May 24th. May 27th, we do the inversion of positions 1 through 20, and then positions 21 through 40 from the Coca-Cola 600 results. The Truck Series and the Xfinity Series, was it both series that they extended the field, or just trucks?
Both.
They're up to 40.
Yep.
For both, to allow extra teams to get in. That way they're not sending people home, basically.
Exactly. Yep. They don't want people driving in putting the risk of driving in and then sending them home. Correct.
And we're doing a similar thing with random draws for the Xfinity Series. The Truck Series is just going to start by owners' points. So, pretty cool deal there. And then tell me about the competition caution, James. You got that? Because I kind of glanced over it. I didn't even really read it.
My page is still loading, so I'm.
It's something along the lines of that they're going to get to pit, and as long as they don't lose a lap, they'll be able to get their position back when they come back out on the track.
Yeah, that's the way I understand it. Yes, yeah. Because of no practice, they want these teams to be able to have a chance to fairly shake it out, I guess.
Right.
It's the way I read it.
And then I think there was one other stipulation too, but I don't remember what it was.
Well, we have the link in the show notes for anybody who wants to read all of the pieces. But of course, the link for me, it's not our show notes fault. It's the
here we go. All 3 NASCAR National Series will have a modified competition caution in the early portion of each race. Those stoppages will include freezing the field to accommodate longer pit stops, allowing teams to make more extended in-race adjustments that might normally be made during practice. So freezing the order at the time of the caution, they will grant the free pass for the one car lap down, or the first car lap down. There will be no wave around. That's what it was. There's no wave around rule for the competition caution. Top 20 will pit, and then the next 20 on the following lap. Each car keeps its position at the time of the caution as long as it beats the pace car off pit road. If they do not beat the pace car off pit road, they'll restart at the tail of the field in the order that they come off pit road.
There you go. It's kind of like how they do it for Eldora trucks.
Yeah, it's really similar.
Yeah.
Except I think they get a couple.
Eldora trucks.
I think they stop the trucks on the backstretch or something. Yeah, I think they give them 2 laps. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And then every year they forget they can't just reset the scoring, and they have to run laps off for somebody, and it's a mess. It ends up taking twice as long as it should. So I guarantee you that this will probably be a mess too. But hey, we get to watch racing, so I'm not going to.
We'll find a way. Yeah, go to the fridge.
Yep.
This.
Yep. And as I noted, expanded fields for the Xfinity and Gander Truck Series races. Since there's no qualifying, we don't want to send anybody home.
Yeah. Kyle Busch is racing Tuesday at Darlington.
Is he? I did not know that.
Yep.
Nice.
Since he's not going to be able to run Chicagoland, he was planning to. He's going to run Xfinity on Tuesday. So you get double Kyle Busch this week.
Awesome. Us Kyle Busch fans will be happy about that. James, tell me about Tommy Baldwin Racing.
Yeah, part-time schedule. Tommy Baldwin's been out of the sport for a little bit, but everybody remembers he came back in. Oh gosh, Eric, when was that? early 2010s.
Yeah.
Tommy Baldwin veered into ownership. They raced for a little while. They went full time for a minute, but then they disappeared. But now, yeah, they're back with Josh Bilicki. He will be starting at Darlington this Sunday. So
interesting. Did we talk? We didn't talk last week about what tracks were losing their dates, did we? Because that was not official yet.
No, we didn't. Actually, that's a good point. Yeah.
So just another thing.
Came out just after the notes.
Man,
or
James,
after the
you
show.
are fired from working on these notes. But I will say
There's a
that,
lot that's been happening.
So here's the thing, though, guys. If you look at the show notes, if you click on the show notes and read them, we link to all the articles we discussed. So this is how you know that James actually put the work into this, unlike me when I do the notes. Because if I look at the links here, the first link is kickingthetires.net. Second one is Speed 51. The next one is NASCAR.com, NASCAR.com. There's only one J-Ski link on here. When I do the notes, it's all J-Ski. So credit to James for actually either clicking the J-Ski article and then clicking the link at the end of the J-Ski article that shows where the information came from, or actually doing the research. And,
we are pushing out so much, or I should say NASCAR is pushing out so much stuff that I didn't put in the notes that we are losing a couple of tracks.
Yes, so we discussed last week and we guessed at what we thought the tracks would be, but we found out this week that those tracks are Sonoma, Chicagoland, and Richmond is going to lose one of its dates.
Yep.
Those are the official ones. The reason I thought about it was you mentioned just Charlotte in general. There was a lot of talk as to why Charlotte is essentially replacing Sonoma, why they aren't running the Roval at Charlotte. And the main reason behind that is that none of the teams have road course cars ready.
Yeah, the cars aren't ready. Yeah, because they were ready to go to Atlanta and they were ready to go to Homestead after that. Right. So that's why you're getting double Darlington and double Charlotte.
And the teams were upset or were worried about ruining a short track car on the Roval. So
exactly. Yep.
I say tough.
There's gonna be a lot of tough going on. With that. But,
whatever.
Yep, you are correct.
All right. So with that, we go to Darlington Raceway this weekend. I wanted to get a little bit. I got some inside info as a NASCAR media member. Before I go and do this, let me make sure that this is not. Oh, maybe it is confidential information. But anyway, I'm going to run through here real quick. I won't post the whole link to the thing. As a matter of fact, let me take it out of the show notes too before you on it, James? You're looking at it?
I'm looking at it.
All right. I'm going to take it out of the show notes so I don't accidentally tweet or send this out. So modified media coverage at the race. I'm not going to give you guys all the details. We'll just talk about some of the stuff that's been discussed publicly. So we will only have one reporter from the Associated Press, two reporters from the National Motorsports Press Association, and one local or NASCAR designated reporter at the tracks. That's it. The rest of the media is going to have to cover off-site, cover it. You can't come to the track, basically. Associated Press reporter designated as the pool reporter for media coverage covering the event remotely. My dog is snoring underneath the desk.
That's fantastic.
Can you hear?
I thought it was something behind me. Apparently it was your dog.
Hold on, quiet. She knows I'm talking about her now, so she's not going to do it. All right. The
pug.
Reporters are going to have to follow the whole social distancing, wear masks all the time. They're not going to be allowed on pit road. Only press box. And so Darlington, the press box is in the turn, in the big red building in the turn. So you can't even see pit road from the press box at Darlington. There will be no in-person interviews at the track. There will be video teleconferences via Zoom for media members leading up to and after the race. So the interesting thing for us is that might allow us to have better access than what we normally have.
Nice.
There is a thing on here, and I don't know if this is public or if this is just for media, but they're going to offer free access to the Scanner and Race Center apps for the May and June races. I've not seen an official announcement, so I don't know if that is something that is general public or just media. But post-race interviews, they'll have, again, via Zoom, as we talked about, video conferences leading up to the event. Let's see. Oh, still photography.
I
Yeah.
heard of that time.
Yeah. Hold on.
So good. Wouldn't be this podcast without a pug snoring.
Right. Every time I move the microphone to try and get it closer to her, she hears it. And she
I
wakes
did
up.
hear it. She snuck in there that time.
So still photography, there will be a pool still or two pool still photography members via Getty Images for photographers and media use. And that's it. NASCAR. Oh, I take that back. NASCAR Media Coalition will select one additional independent photographer for pool coverage. So no other still photographers at the track until health restrictions are lifted.
How happy are the drivers going to be with all this? They don't have to see anybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be. They're going to get to relax. I mean, there's no
show up and drive
I'm
the
assuming
car.
no driver intros or anything like that because they're not going to do it for TV. So
Right. They'll have to do probably sponsorship stuff via Zoom, or
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, that'll be about it.
yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see. I know that NASCAR doesn't allow a lot of electronics on the cars. I would love to see NASCAR allow them to do something where they could stream like they did for the iRacing stuff, somehow to the fans. But I don't think that's going to be available.
Not yet. Not this year.
Yeah. So, but I can't complain about it. NASCAR is doing what they need to do. They're going to try and keep it as
Well, they're
locked down
taking
as
extra-
possible. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
you
they're
don't-
taking the extra precautions. I mean, the odds are somebody's going to get sick
Yeah.
during this whole thing. It's going to happen, but listen, this is the risk that everybody in the industry wants. Other sports leagues can't figure their stuff out,
Mhm.
and they're all fighting with each other.
Right.
And NASCAR's figured out a way to. Everybody seems happy with this.
Yeah.
So if your competitors and the pit members and everybody are happy that they can get to racing, so be it, man.
And
Let's go.
Look,
Let's go.
It is Wednesday before the race on Sunday, and
we're it.
I see no indication, James, that this isn't going to happen. It's going to happen.
No, we're racing. We're racing Sunday.
We will have racing this weekend, which is
Heck, the UFC went last week, and I don't watch the UFC. I could care less. But they had a competitor on the card get the COVID, and they fought on. So if NASCAR's going to take that approach, then yeah, we're gonna race. We're not stopping. We're going. We're gonna trudge forward.
Oh, she's quit snoring again. All right. With that, James, guess what we get to do?
We get to make picks.
We get to make picks. And I don't even remember how to do this. It's been so long.
Well, here's what we're gonna do. What you do is you look at a list of drivers.
Yeah.
And then you say that one looks good. That's usually how I do it.
Yeah, that's how I do it too. So
Hey, I know that name. That's how I.
Let's recap. So way back, James, at the beginning of the season, 2 months ago or so, we a little longer than that now, 4 races ago only, we came up with a system that we don't remember where we awarded points. I believe you get a point if you
Point to the victor
point to the victor, whoever finishes further ahead.
favorite and dark horse.
Yep,
so
favorite and dark
you get a
horse.
point for each. Yep.
And
point
then
for
you
each.
get an extra point. And okay, let's put it this way, because neither of us have won yet. So even if this wasn't the case, I don't want to listen to the podcast again, so we'll just make it up again. If you win, you get an extra point.
There you go.
So there we go.
You can get a maximum of 3 points on a race weekend.
Correct. So right now we are tied at 4-4 after 4 races. Our last race, we'll recap once again. I don't remember what race it was. Phoenix, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
we went to
Phoenix.
Phoenix.
Yeah. I chose Kevin Harvick, and James chose Kyle Busch, and Kevin Harvick finished ahead of Kyle Busch, so I got the point there. And then dark horse, James picked William Byron, and I had a momentary lapse of judgment and chose Daniel Suarez. And William Byron, of course, beat Suarez back before Suarez was iRacing wrecker and got disqualified from iRacing. And so James got the point there. So tied 4-4 after 4 races. And we're going to pick both races at Darlington because we're not going to do a podcast in between the 2 Darlington races. As a matter of fact, we have no freaking idea when we're going to do the next podcast.
We're not going to. Yeah, we may watch the second race and do the podcast. I don't know.
Maybe.
Who knows what we're going to do?
Maybe that's an option. What time is the second race? What time are they running it?
It's a night race. I don't know what.
I mean, like, how late is it though? Is it like
Oh, I'm sure
It's
can't
only
be
a
that
300 miler or something, though, right?
Yeah, it can't be that bad.
Yeah, says the person who goes to bed at like 8 o'clock.
Well, yeah. I'm tired, man. I get up at 4 in the morning. Sue me.
Yeah. Anyway, so at some point next week we'll do a podcast. Probably after it'll definitely be after the second Darlington race. Just don't know for sure when it will be. So we're gonna pick both races here. I trust that James has decided this correctly and that he will get the first pick.
That's right.
For Darlington
I
race
went
number 1.
Yep, off of our last notes, you picked first.
So I very much trust James that he is doing this
I'm not
as
gonna cheat.
fairly as possible. It doesn't matter if he cheats anyway because we both really suck at this.
Yes, we do.
So James, who's your pick for the winner of the first Darlington race?
This may surprise you, but I'm going with what I know, and what I know is Penske is a bunch of butt kickers right now.
Yeah, that's a good pick, actually. I don't even
I'm
know which one
going
you're
to
going
go-
with, but
Yeah, I would like to take Brad Keselowski, but I'm not going to. I'm going to go with his old crew chief, and I'm going to take the guy who's winning races this season so far, Joey Logano. I'm going to take Joey Logano for Darlington 1 as the favorite.
all right. Well, I'm going to
Not a giant track record at Darlington, but nonetheless, I'm going to take him because he's been running really well.
I
so
am
far.
going to give myself away with my pick for Darlington race number 1 by saying I am feeling the Joe Gibbs crowd this weekend and week, and I am going to go with the tried and true 2-time Darlington winner and better average finisher Denny Hamlin. He's fresh off a couple of iRacing victories.
Yeah.
And he's going to be my pick as the winner of the Darlington 400 this
All right.
weekend.
And then we left the favorite off the board, Eric Jones.
Yeah.
Second on that list is Kyle Larson, but he not entered.
Yes,
So
that is interesting.
anyway, yes. So, all right.
So
Eric,
you
you get the dark horse.
Yep, I get first dark horse, and I think I am going to go with. Is Ryan Newman a dark horse?
Oh boy,
Because Ryan Newman's back this week, guys.
he's finished second in the Cup Series points.
I'm not going to pick him anyway, but I'm just curious if he's a dark horse. I'm going to go.
I don't know if he qualifies.
I'm going to just go. I'm going to wing it and not do Matt DiBenedetto, and I'm going to pick Ty Dillon.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Dillon does well at Darlington, and that's pretty much all you can say about Ty anywhere with a super speedway. Is he does well. If he does well, that's a good run for Ty.
He does good for a Dylan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. My dark horse, I'll go with somebody who's been sneaky good so far this season, but again, we have no idea. We've just had a second off season. So
Right.
I'll take Chris Buescher.
That was my second choice, actually.
Yeah, I'll take Chris Buescher. I think he still qualifies as a dark horse.
Yeah, he does. How the hell do you spell his last name? Buescher.
Buescher. Chris Buescher.
All right. Darlington race number 2. I get the first pick on this one because James picked first the last one. I'm going to stick with my Joe Gibbs Racing theme, and I'm actually going to pick the one that I picked as my winner on fantasy this week, and I am going to go with Mr. Kyle Busch.
KB Show. I like it. I will go. We'll have one race in the book. It'll be a shorter race. Give me Eric Jones.
Nice.
I'll take Eric Jones. I'm gonna go. He's got a 4.7 average finish here. So I'll take Eric Jones.
So the reason I like Kyle Busch in this one is, again, it's a shorter race. Kyle will also be coming off, as you mentioned, the Xfinity race, so he will have 2 races of experience versus everybody else's 1. So that's my reason for Kyle Busch. Plus, it's Kyle Busch, so he can win anyway.
Yeah.
James, you got dark horse first.
Yeah. Let me make it easy on you. I'll go Buescher again.
Okay.
I'll go Buescher again. Even though it's 2 races in a row, I'm going to take Buescher again because I think he's going to run well. So if I can get him for 2 races, I feel like he's a good dark horse to have. So
All right.
I'm going to load up on the Buescher.
I'm not leaving DiBenedetto out there for 2 races, so I'm taking DiBenedetto as my pick, dark horse.
Yep. Good deal.
With that, fantasy league guys, if you're on the fantasy league, don't forget to make your picks before the weekend. Todd informed me that.
Want the standings?
What's that?
Want the standings?
Yeah, hold on. I'll get there. Just calm down. Pump the brakes.
I'm excited.
Pump the brakes, James. Yeah, because you're first still, aren't you?
I've been in the lead for
It's
like
ridiculous.
10 weeks.
Yeah, ridiculous. Anyway, Todd informed us that it is, I think, 3-something in the afternoon. You get to pick right up to the start of the race. So, but you don't get to pick a poll winner because that's already done. So,
Yeah.
James, who's second? We don't
Freight
care about
Train
who's
in
first.
second. Yeah, Freight Train second, then Ranger Runyon, Denny the Many, Justin 713, and then there's Eric in sixth, Toyota Fan 60, and our buddy Baron Speedway is in eighth place. But we haven't had many races under our belt, so it's all pretty close.
Yeah. So speaking of which, if you guys are really bummed that you missed out on the fantasy league thing and you want to join up,
Come on in.
Yeah, now's the time to do it, man. We're still close. Lots of time to catch up. And again, James and I are terrible. James, don't let him fool you that he's leading right now, because he won't be leading for long. So
I'll find a way.
You will certainly be able to catch up to him. So I wouldn't worry about that.
I'll find a way to mess the whole thing up. Don't worry.
There you go. That brings us to shout outs, James. And the funny thing is I had my shout out and I'm like, nah, I'm not going to write it down. This is the one I had a couple weeks ago that I was going to do. I'm like, I'm not going to write it down because I'll remember what it is. Yeah. So let's see how long yours will take and see if I can find mine while you're doing that.
I can filibuster for you. So Eric and we have met a few people in the industry along the way, and you connect with them on various social media platforms, right? So Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever. And over the last couple of weeks, LinkedIn has turned into a little bit of a graveyard for NASCAR track employees, NASCAR employees, and if you're connected with these people, they start to trickle into your feed. And I wanted to shout out all of the employees who have lost their jobs on the NASCAR side, and on the track side. NASCAR is doing some consolidating with ticket sales and social media and digital content and all these things that these tracks were kind of doing on their own. It's all going to come under NASCAR's roof, especially, NASCAR owns all these tracks now.
Right.
So it makes it a little more synergy with everything they've got going on. So going to be a streamlined business. I just feel bad for some people. There's really creative people out there. I know who, I would say friends of ours or colleagues of ours, Eric, that have lost their jobs recently. But we're thinking about you because, this is a tough time for so many people, but, this is just another one of the ways where this whole thing has kind of hit home. Thinking about, all these people out there who don't get to come back to the track. We're excited to go back to racing, but there's some people out there who won't get to, which sucks. But, they're super talented. There's a lot of people out there they're gonna find even better opportunities from this. So, but wanted to make mention of all those folks to, keep your head up. You guys will be fine. This thing will pass, and you'll be back on your feet before no time.
Yeah, totally agree. I second that with James. I've got a lot of friends on social media through the NASCAR industry. I don't spend a ton of time on NASCAR social media, but certainly have crossed paths with a few that I've seen that have been let go or laid off or whatever. And so it's definitely sad. Speaking of which, one that we'll mention is what's his name? David Smith from The Athletic got laid off.
Yep.
I did want to give a shout out to David. I'm not a giant fan of, not that I have anything against David's stuff. I just haven't followed it, but I know James is a big follower of his stuff. David is not with The Athletic anymore, but he did start his own Patreon page, and highly recommend, if you guys love stats, NASCAR stats, to check him out on Patreon, subscribe, support him. He's a good guy. He writes some good stuff.
Yep. His podcast is excellent. Positive Regression with Alan Cavanna, another really great resource out there. So I love listening to him, and his website, Motorsports Analytics, you can get that stuff on there now, Patreon supported. So good dude, really smart.
Yep. Very cool. So I found my shout out.
Excellent.
Several weeks in the making.
I am excited.
So I talked about Baron Speedway is a friend of the show, the NASCAR or the race car dioramas, stuff like that. So through Baron Speedway, I have been able to find all kinds of really cool people that are making model racetracks and dioramas and things like that. And one of them that I found, which I thought was just awesome, is Riverside Park Speedway is the account. It's Riverside_Park_Speedway. And basically this guy took his local short track. He's got an aerial picture of the short track, and he has recreated that track in 1/64 scale with modifieds and whatnot. It's not perfect, but it's really good. It's really well done. It's very cool. He's got all kinds of photos on his Instagram. That's where to check him out. So Riverside Park Speedway, just another one of those sites that's doing really cool stuff with their spare time. And I am jealous of all of these people that A, have the time to put into this, B, have the patience to put into it, and C, have the skill to do it and make it look good. Because James, I may not have told you this before, but I decided to build a model racetrack one time. I did it out of plywood in my parents' garage, and it was terrible. It was so bad. First of all, I don't have the patience to do something like this that's going to take months to do. I want it done now. And so I did this in an afternoon, and it had legit walls, but the walls I used a saw and just plywood and tried to cut the walls with the saw. I don't even know what kind of saw it is. A jigsaw, maybe, I think it was. And, just managed to break the wood, and it just did a terrible, terrible job. So these guys, they have like banking on their speedways or a dirt track like this one. I have so much respect for these guys. Like I said, Barron Speedway is like my idol with this stuff.
Somebody's doing Eldora.
I've
stumbled across that, and they've got like really hard clay packed into, and it's.
Oh, I think I saw that one. Yeah. I think they used clay from actual Eldora.
Yeah, it's incredible. I'm like, holy crap, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I saw that. So this stuff's cool. So yeah, Riverside Park Speedway, go check them out. Very cool. And hopefully he'll enjoy the shout out. I'll have to tweet at him or something and let him know that we shouted him out. So.
Eric, so your boys are eventually, who knows, 20, 30 years from now, they're going to move out of the house.
Right.
At some point, you would hope, right?
Yeah.
That's every parent's dream to get them this point.
If they do it next week, I'll be all right with it.
Yeah, you bring them in just to get them out.
We've been doing the homeschooling thing, James, and the sooner the better.
Yeah, we're one less than you for the time being, and we're, it's been great. However, these boys are eventually going to leave, and you're going to have free time that you don't have, and who knows what iRacing is going to look like and all this stuff. But I can only imagine you as an older man, iRacing and building models of racetracks. That's going to be your future.
Yeah.
Right? That's it.
Yeah, it will be. And iRacing didn't exist before I got married. And if it did, I don't know, man. I don't know.
How far is Kay from you right now?
She's about an hour away right now.
Oh, okay. So you're
chances are she's going to listen to this, and I will probably hear her scream from there. But I love my wife. I love my family. I would not change anything for the world, but it would be really fun to race iRacing.
Yeah. That's funny, man. That's funny.
I wouldn't be able to race iRacing because the only reason that I have any money whatsoever is because of my wife, because still am, but I'm a habitual spender. Like, she's the one who saves in our family, and I'm the one who spends. And like, every credit card I owned was maxed, and it was a bad deal when I met her. And her being an accountant has gotten me back to where it's not ridiculous. So that's a good thing.
I think if Todd and I keep needling you, we'll get you on an iRacing account before.
Do you want to know how to do it? I can tell you how to do it.
If we all did it, you would probably
exactly.
Do it, right?
If you and Todd both got iRacing rigs and started talking about it, I would have to do it.
See, I don't think I could. I would love to do it. I really would.
I thought about, I know of course, right now we can't do anything, but there's a bar here in town that I think has a league that they have rigs set up, and you go race on their rigs.
What?
Yeah, I think so. I've heard rumors about this.
About that.
So, that's been a thought of something like that. Like, that would be really cool.
There is a go-kart league not far from us, but
is there?
It's an indoor go-karts, yeah, and they're fast.
Is that the one in Clio or whatever?
That's the one in Clio, yeah. I don't know if they're even allowed to be open. They're probably not open right now.
But when things go back to normal, James, maybe we need to do that.
That might be the way to do it, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, we got to wait till the newborn is not quite as newborn anymore, and
so that's
your wife lets you leave the house, but
another 4 years. I don't know. Eric, before we close the show,
I want to, I'm sorry, but I want to race you. I've never raced you in anything. Like,
I
we're
know,
both big
I would
race
kick your
fans.
butt so thoroughly, I might
think
save
you
you some
would.
money.
See, I have this idea that I'm a really good racer, but I don't think I'm really that good. Like, I think I'm better than the average person, but when it comes to other people with skill, I don't think I match up really well.
Yeah.
I always feel like I'm in the slow go-kart at the go-kart track, and maybe that's not really the case. Maybe I'm just not good.
It could be. I used to be pretty decent down at the Clio track. That was probably the peak of my powers.
See,
But it's been a while.
I've only done the indoor go-karts twice, and the one time was for my buddy's wedding. It was his bachelor party, and I set quick time, but I finished I got screwed on the start because the way they started
They inverted you and you got stuck.
No, I started on the front, but I started on the outside.
Oh.
And they were staggered, but they were still, the person on the inside was behind me, but they were still at the inside of me going into the first turn. And it was a standing stop or standing start. And so when we went into turn one, I got pushed high and then everybody passed me. And then I think I finished like fifth or something like that out of like 16 carts. So it wasn't terrible, but now put me on an oval though. That's the thing. Oval I can do, road course I can't do very well.
Yeah. See, when I had my bachelor party in Clio, I won my bachelor party, and then my buddy got married, and he had a bachelor party, and I beat his ass on the. And then the guys at the track gave him the checkered flag and let him drive around the track, and I was pissed. I know it's his bachelor party, but that's my checkered flag.
Yeah, I would totally be down for an actual league with those things, though. That would be fun. I forgot about Clio. That's not that far away.
Not that far away. It's like a 40-minute drive. Not even that.
That's totally worth it to go race once a week.
Yeah, not that far.
I mean, like I said, can't do it now, but maybe down the road.
Someday.
Screw iRacing. If I can race a real race car.
Yeah. What it's all about.
I mean, I'm not going to get hurt in playing iRacing, but I might get hurt in real life. That's awesome. That makes it way better.
Yeah.
I'm complaining about not being able to help move this weekend because my back hurts and I want to go race a go-kart. So
well, it's priorities.
Right. Exactly.
You got to save yourself up for what you really want to do.
Yeah. All right, James. Anything else?
I did want to ask you before we close out, eyeballs on the sport this week, and this may be a good way to end the show.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think it's going to look like? Are we going to have massive TV numbers? I mean, what's the national media going to be doing? Because we're seeing a lot of stuff on ESPN this week. Marty Smith was live at Chip Ganassi Racing today. Like, he was on site with his mask on. The ESPN Daily podcast had a whole feature of NASCAR today. We had the piece from The Ringer. So, like, non-traditional sports media is trickling in now, Eric. What do you think? What are your thoughts?
Well, so here's the thing. There is nothing else. I mean, what do we got? Yes, golf, right?
I know. I don't even know what golf is doing, to be honest with you.
So we've got nothing else unless you want to cover like Korean baseball or something like that is going on right now.
And the Michael Jordan documentary.
And the Michael Jordan documentary.
That's it.
So you already have nothing else going on. And then you have the fact that iRacing has gotten as much publicity as it has, which just goes to show you how desperate people are for sports right now.
And there's people who are going to want to gamble on something.
Yeah, I mean, this could be a real big NASCAR resurgence, James, because you get enough eyeballs. If they put on a good enough show, and we're going to a good track for it to happen, especially a shorter race at Darlington, a 400-miler and a 300-miler.
Yeah.
If you get, and you might get some eyeballs on the support races as well. If you get enough eyeballs on this, you might hook some people, and we're not going to get back to 2000s numbers, but
no, but we're going to get I'm thinking we're going to get a nice little pop here.
Oh, the TV audience this weekend is going to be great. I'm looking more long-term though. I'm looking, are we going to hook some fans that,
well, we're going to get a pop and it's going to be a gradual down, because that's the way these things always go. You get the big spike, then you come back down.
Oh yeah.
But it's going to be a really slow trickle back down. I think we're going to have eyeballs on the sport for a little while here until it sounds like the NBA is figuring their stuff out and baseball might have something figured out, but they're all fighting, with each other. The owners and the players all can't get along on how to handle this thing. So the longer that drags out, and football's not coming back just yet either. So
right.
we're it.
So here's
the
question. when NASCAR got popular in the 2000s, the late 90s, early 2000s, did it get popular because it was the cool thing to do, or did it get popular because it was exciting? Like, because it actually drew interest? Like, were people interested because it was an interesting product, or were people interested because everybody else was interested?
I think it's because
I don't know if you have the answer to that. It might be a rhetorical question.
no, I think it was exciting, but they had real stars back then too.
I don't think that I'm
I
sorry.
think that
I
makes a
don't
difference.
buy into the real stars thing.
Yeah, I do still.
Not in the
I do.
2000s, James. We went so vanilla in the 2000s. And yeah, we started to lose fans
Yeah,
then,
but you had the Dale Earnhardt thing. Beyond him, his personality.
Dale Jr. lost a championship because he said shit in victory lane. Like, you can't get more vanilla than that. I mean,
Right.
So we didn't hemorrhage fans then. We didn't do it until the
2008
recession.
was 2008 was, but 2007 it was kind of starting to.
Yeah, but the recession really did it.
2008
And people just didn't come
Yeah,
back.
the recession did it in, but
So I guess
people
my question is so if and maybe we'll find this out. If people got hooked on NASCAR back then because it was interesting, because it was exciting,
people care about personalities, Eric. I think you underestimate how much people care about the personalities in the sport.
I
I
don't know.
really think that was a big part of the boom back then. I mean, hell,
Who were the personalities?
I remember my grandmother
Who were the
talking, and all of them. They were talking
Who?
about all the drivers
Who?
back then. All of them.
Who stands out to you from the early 2000s?
The early
as a
2000s.
personality?
Remember, don't you remember how?
Who stands out, James? Give me a name. Who is a personality that stands out to you?
People cared about the Jeff Gordon stuff.
Okay,
They
Jeff
cared
Gordon's
about,
on TV.
Yep, I remember
He's
the
still
Labonte.
here.
The Labonte brothers are pretty vanilla, but they had a
The
pretty big
Labonte
fan
brothers
base.
suck. Nobody cared about the Labonte brothers. Come on.
They had a pretty big following.
Yeah, the
back in
1990s people. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the people that came in
Dale-
the 2000s to watch racing.
Yep, Dale Jr.
Dale
he
Jr.'s on
obviously
TV
had his-
still.
He had his big following.
Still on TV.
Yep, he's still around. So
Who else? Who else? Kevin Harvick was a good personality. Oh, wait, Harvick's still racing, huh?
Harvick's still
I
racing.
mean, Tony
yep.
Stewart was a good personality. Tony Stewart's a
Stewart-
team owner.
Tony Stewart was a big personality. Yep.
I mean, Carl Edwards, I guess I'll give you Carl Edwards. He's not around anymore.
He's
Matt
not a
Kenseth, he's coming back.
big- Matt Kenseth. I don't think he.
I mean,
ever-
Kurt Busch was a big personality. Kurt's still here.
I'm saying it's a piece of the pie, man.
I
not
gotcha. I'm
it's the
just
whole
saying that
thing.
it's all still here. It's all still
don't-
here. Put the
But
camera in
people
front of
stopped
him.
ca-
Clint
but people
Boyer. Tell me who's Clint Boyer in 2000.
Oh God.
There
Dick
is
Trick-
not a Clint Boyer in 2000.
It wasn't Dick Trickle. Ted Musgrave.
No. Clint Boyer, man. Clint Boyer is proof that the personality is not everything, because Clint Boyer should have so many freaking fans.
I think there's but I think part of the mix is people got turned off about something along the way. The monotonous of it, maybe. I don't know.
I don't
I
know.
can't pinpoint. It's a never-ending cycle of you can get lost.
My
in that.
argument is if it's the excitement of it that brought those people in the 2000s, when they're re-exposed to it now, that will bring people back. Again,
I agree
it's
with
a
you.
different time, so we're not going to get the numbers we had back then, but we could boost our audience, because I argue that regardless
will.
of what the people say that watched in the 90s, the product now is better than it was in the 2000s. It's better than it was in the late 90s. What you remember is not what it was. So if we get new eyeballs on it, we got new eyeballs with iRacing, kids playing video games. Now they can look at the real thing. You know, I think it could be a positive. And if people just got into it because it was the popular thing, then yeah, when other sports come back, they'll go away and we'll be
Yeah.
right back where we were. So,
Yep.
but I have a
disagree with
really
you.
hard time with the personality thing. I get what you're saying, and I get that's everybody's argument, but I think that argument is the same argument as the people that say the racing was better in the 90s. There was more passing in the 90s when there were 5 cars in the lead lap, because they are
Right.
remembering stuff that didn't exist.
Yes, but Jeff Gordon's fame was so enormous back then, and Dale Earnhardt.
Yeah, but it
Dale
wasn't
Earnhardt
because of
changed-
personality.
I think it had something to
What
do with it.
personality? He
Marketability.
cried in victory lane. What did he do?
Don't you remember?
He was on
people-
Saturday Night Live. I'll give you
Don't
that.
you remember people getting? Don't you remember? Well, yeah, that's pretty big. But don't you remember? Don't you remember how big people were into his, like, even like the little things, like his relationship with his ex-wife? Like
Yeah,
that
so
was
that's
a
what we need. That's what we need.
huge
Is
story.
we need
I'm
some
not saying-
tabloid media.
I don't want the tabloid media. That's what I'm saying. But that's just people were invested in these guys at a higher level back then.
That's because it was popular. That's the only reason, though.
Right.
But it's
what?
So yeah.
But what eventually turned them off? We'll never know.
The recession and the fact that it was really expensive to go to a race. Well, now guess what, guys? You can't go to one.
You can't go to one anyway.
So
I know.
Now it's free on TV. Like, I mean, speaking of which, that was one thing we didn't mention too. NASCAR or Fox is going to cover the next 12 races. Not necessarily Big Fox, but Fox as an organization is going to cover the next
Fox
12
proper.
races. Yes.
I don't know. I'm just I'm curious to see what having some of the big dogs come back in does with some of the national media. I mean, we're going to get coverage for not a crash.
Yeah.
You know, whenever there's a huge crash in NASCAR, then we get the front page of the websites and stuff. But
I don't think ESPN's that relevant anymore. I don't think, Sports Illustrated we talked about last week is
Sports Illustrated's not, but I think ESPN still carries some pretty big weight.
Yeah. I don't know.
I do.
I don't know. I'm not in the sports crowd that much, so I guess I really can't say.
Yeah, I just think it's going to be. We're going to get a nice pop from this. I'm wondering what that's gonna look like. I just wanted to gauge your opinion on it. It's a great way to end the show. But
yeah, I just want NASCAR to capitalize on it. We're going to have more eyeballs. So what can we do?
Don't screw it up.
Yeah. So, Mother Nature.
Mother Nature, stay away.
Please, we paid the first 4 races this year.
Maybe we give Hoots a call. Get him back in there.
Yeah.
They'll be fine. The officiating will be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Todd's not there this weekend, so we're good.
Right. Yes.
Every time, guys, just so you know, on this podcast, when there's an officiating call that gets screwed up, we're going to blame Todd, whether it's his fault or not. So just so you know.
Yep.
So we've already done this. We've been blaming him for the weather. So
he has been a really bad weather bug.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Tri-City was like that too.
Yep.
I blame him. They blamed me, but it was Todd. It's all Todd. I got the bad rep last year when I went to Michigan and it rained. So suddenly it became.
Yeah, you were in bad luck. You were bad luck last year.
Yeah, I think just Mother Nature sucked last year.
That's true.
So, all right, let's get the heck out of here, James. We've gone long now, but it's
way long. But we're back.
We're going back racing. So next week when we come back on this podcast, guys, we get to recap a real race. 2 of them.
2 of them.
2 of them, maybe, hopefully. Maybe 3, because there's an Xfinity race in there too. When's the truck race? There's a truck race sometime. I think truck race is Thursday,
truck race is coming back in Charlotte, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe it's Friday. I don't know. Yeah, whatever. James, where can they find you on social media if they want to tweet with you about NASCAR?
At James Cush on Twitter.
You can find me at TSuperspeedway on Twitter. You can find the podcast on Facebook at facebook.com/TheSuperspeedway. Our website is thesuperspeedway.com. You can find links to our show notes on there, links to all the articles we discussed, links to past episodes. Check out last week's episode with Todd, NASCAR official Todd. Worth a listen for sure. Also, old podcasts with Barron Speedway last year. Aaron Bearden was on one of our shows. Brandon Crowd from Lap Traffic was on. So lots of good stuff on there. So check that out. Orange Cone. Can't forget the Orange Cone. Come on.
Kanye.
Yep, exactly. You can find the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and SoundCloud. Wherever you found it today, we hope you subscribe and continue to listen. And if you want to help out the show, become part of it, and help support us, you can become a patron at patreon.com/thesuperspeedway. We are going back racing. We had to, well, not us because media is not allowed, but NASCAR is going back to Darlington Raceway this weekend. It is the something 400. It's something to do with honoring we're crashing now. Here we go. Honoring the first responders. It might even be the first responders 400, something like that. Anyway, Darlington Raceway. We go back on Wednesday night for the Cup Series again, a 300 miler. We got some Xfinity sprinkled in there in between. Lots of racing. We got 7 races in 10 days or something like that. So sit back, grab your favorite beverage, bag of chips, and watch some NASCAR racing this next week or couple weeks. We will be back next week at some point to discuss it all. Until then, everybody, finally, it's time. Let's go racing. Oh, no, there we go.